Okay, so you're going to be moving to China. I'm Stacy Adeyemo, and this is just something I hope that will help you. I know you might be nervous about moving here to China. I've been living here for 4 years, and I'm on my fifth year. I've taught at a university for 4 years, and this year I'm working at a primary school. And so I just want to give you a little bit of help that might help you in transitioning to living in China and what life will be like here. Some things that you may already know is Beijing and Shanghai. You may know about the Great Wall and the Great Firewall, which blocks YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all those social networking sites that we love, especially as Americans. We love them. You probably know you're going to have to use chopsticks. You probably heard that there's fortune cookies. When I moved here, all of my friends were like, "Oh, you're going to eat fortune cookies all the time." Guess what? That is actually a myth. There are no fortune cookies or spring rolls here. Well, spring rolls, if you go to Pizza Hut, you can get some spring rolls. And I've heard that if you go down to the south, you can get spring rolls. But here in Henan, where I live, it's very difficult to get spring rolls, and fortune cookies are non existent. Actually, you can tell your students or your Chinese friends about fortune cookies, and they'll be like, "What? What are these fortune cookies you speak of?" And if you bring them back from the States, which I've done a few times, and let them try and eat them, they'll tell you they're too sweet. Because almost everything here, almost all of our American sweets and treats that we love, are too sweet for them. So their cake is not the birthday cake that we have in America. So just a little thing to let you know. I'm sure you've heard that they're indirect speakers. I'm sure you know about communism here. And if you've ever studied any kind of ancient China, you know that they were dynasties. Here's some things that you may not know or might have a misconception about. Number one, first one, all Chinese look the same and have the same traditions. Not true. There are 56 different ethnic groups that are represented in China. The Han group is actually the majority, and they represent 92% of the population. That being said, it is rather difficult for us to come here because when we distinguish between people, a lot of times we go with hair color and eye color. So a lot of times it's hard for us to come here to China where everyone looks Chinese because they've got black hair and brown eyes. And so sometimes that's it. You just have to find a different way of getting to know them. I mean, they have very different features, Yes, similar, you can tell they're Chinese, but very different features. They look different. And, there actually are those different ethnic groups. Under Chinese law, all ethnic groups have equal rights. Um, and they actually have the freedom to use and develop their own ethnic language, their culture, and their social customs. Actually, one thing that you might want to collect or get as souvenirs when you're here, they have these dolls that represent each of the 56 ethnic groups, and they're really beautiful dolls, and they all have the different things to show their clothing and their different customs. So, um, yeah, they actually do have very diverse culture. I mean, we're talking about a culture that's been here for years and years and years and years, hundreds and hundreds of years. Misconception number two is that all Chinese speak Mandarin. Um, the Chinese language actually, or the Chinese actually have 7 main dialects. Um, but the official national language of mainland China is called Putonghua. Putonghua is the common language. Um, So you hear people say, "Oh, do you speak Putonghua?" Instead of saying, "Do you speak Mandarin?" They say, "Do you speak Putonghua?" Um, and really, the thing is it's each each area has its own words and stuff for things. So sometimes it can get confusing. My husband is pretty fluent in Chinese, and he actually will go to other parts of China and sometimes have a little bit harder time conversing with them. He can still get by and it's fine. And so, if you're getting Rosetta Stone or some other site to learn Chinese, it will work and it will be helpful, but just know that not everything's the exact same. One way to easily explain that is, in America we have, in the Midwest we'll say pop. On the East Coast we say soda. Some say Coke. Some say cola. We all say something different, but we're all talking about the same thing. And so, that's the same thing. I've gone, even within Henan province here, I've gone up to another city, learned something, and come back and been so proud of myself. Like, okay, I'm going to speak this Chinese with my friends, and, my Chinese friends, and I go to say something, and they're like, huh? And I'm like, but I was taught that's really funny, like, that saying that I just said. And they're like, oh, we don't get it, And then you'll find somebody from that same area, and they're like, oh, that's hilarious. But it's just different. And so you just have to know that it's not everyone speaking the exact same language in exactly the same way. Third misconception is that you might believe that all Chinese are very traditional. In Henan, especially, and I'm not going to try and talk about everywhere, but especially here in Henan, I would compare it to what I would imagine 1950s were like in America. They have a very traditional appearance. So on the surface, you see no divorces, no single parents, and no sex before marriage. Actually, though, there are divorces. Oftentimes, those divorces are done in secret. They don't, they're not really out there for everybody to see. I have several friends whose parents are divorced, but they don't talk about it. I didn't know that until 2 or 3 years after knowing them. Did they even come out and say it, because they're very embarrassed about it. So they like to, on the surface, appear very traditional. The other thing is that single parents really are virtually unheard of, because if you're pregnant, you have two options. Number one, you go and get an abortion. So if you're still in college, you're not ready to get married, you shouldn't be getting married, and you're going to have an abortion. Or, if you're out of college, you get married to the person that you are having the baby with. Like I said, I've been here 4 years. I've been to about 8 or 9 weddings, and a majority of those weddings, I'd say 6 to 7 of those weddings, were because the bride was pregnant. And so they got married before the baby was born and before she was really showing. So very quick shotgun weddings. So that's why I say I really would compare it to like 1950s America. Another misconception, I love this misconception, is that Chinese eat dogs and cats. When I came here, everybody said, oh, you can't bring your dog. Because I had a dog, and my pet dog, who I loved, and I wanted to bring her here with me. And they're like, you can't do that. One day when you turn your back, they're going to take and chop your dog up and eat it and serve it to you to eat. And then you'd eat your own dog. And I'm like, okay, I don't think that's going to happen. So let me just ease your mind. Yes, they do eat dogs and cats, but you're not going to be eating dogs and cats. I have been here 4 years and have never, ever, ever eaten dogs or cats. I've never been in a situation where my friends take me out to eat, and they take me out a lot, but I've never had a situation where they're like, here, eat some dog, it's yummy. No. The meat that you're probably going to be eating will be chicken, lamb, and pork. You can get beef here, but it's more expensive and not as common. Pork, chicken, and lamb are your most common. Most Chinese that you will speak to, most of your Chinese friends, have never eaten dog or cat either. It's not like they are like, Oh, what do you want today for dinner? I think we should eat cat. No, they don't do that. Actually, nowadays, many Chinese have dogs as pets, so they're not going to sit there and chop up their pets. But you can try lots of exotic foods. I've tried eel, scorpion, frog legs, starfish, goat eyeballs, pig's feet, so many things. I've tried lots and lots of different foods. Some of them I love, like scorpion. Give it a try. It's delicious. Fried scorpion, love it. Goat eyeballs, I would steer clear of them. Unless you're just really adventurous or want to have bragging rights. I would steer clear of them. But that's up to you. There are exotic foods you can try so that you can brag to your friends about all the different things you've done. And if you are brave and want to try dogs and cats, you can find them. Misconception number 5, all Chinese love and are good at math. Not true. Actually, I think it's really funny because I would say that to some of my university students and they would be like, ugh, I hate math. And actually, there were quite a few that would not be in the IT program that I was teaching because they felt like there was too much math in it and they couldn't do it. So, not all Chinese love math, and not all Chinese are really good at math. Now, they are pretty good at doing calculations, performing the calculations. The Chinese education system really teaches a lot through rote memorization, although that is changing. So the Chinese tend to be better at those really systematic and factual subjects because they're used to the memorization. So for instance, my 3rd grade students learned addition with regrouping, like addition of large numbers with regrouping, subtraction of large numbers with regrouping, multiplication, and long division. They learned it in 1st grade. Unheard of in the States. Maybe for the gifted kids, but not for the regular ed kids. They're not used to the abstract, though. If you give them a word problem, a lot of times those prove very challenging to them, even if it's a word problem in Chinese. Obviously, a word problem in English is going to be a little bit challenging because English isn't their first language, but even in Chinese, it's a little bit more difficult for them. Because of the learning system, you should know that students expect the teachers to really explain everything to them. And they hope that learning would come through films, videos, and pictures. This is what one study showed of Chinese students. It is true that your students really expect you to teach everything to them. They are not used to our Western style of teaching. They're not used to working in groups. They're used to just sitting there listening to what you have to say, and that's it. So just be prepared for that. They're used to lecture. They like the games, some of them. Some of them feel like the games are childish and they don't like it. It really depends on your students. Next one, Chinese believe that plagiarism is okay. That's not true. Chinese do not believe that plagiarism is okay. But they do have a hard time distinguishing when they are using plagiarism. So that distinction really needs to be made. They are not saying, oh yeah, you should go ahead and plagiarize anyone you want to. That's great. Plagiarism? Yeah. But plagiarism is pretty rampant here in the Chinese society. The reason that is because people are taught that the highest honor you can show a person is by quoting another person. So for instance, if I say to be or not to be, most people, in Western cultures especially, we would know that that's Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. So if I'm talking to you, or I'm writing a paper, and I write to be or not to be, I don't need to tell you that it's William Shakespeare, because you already know that. You're already smart enough. And I am honoring that person by saying what they said, by quoting exactly word for word what they said. So any quotes that are from those distinguished leaders are familiar, and so you don't need to directly reference them. Because of that, a lot of times the Chinese students will write papers or give presentations, and they'll